Today I'm joined by David Dand. David is the founder and managing director of Coreus, a talent acquisition solutions company who provide professional services to SMEs, and they give them a competitive edge. So welcome, David.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here, Simon.
Yeah, great to have you. So David, tell us a little bit more about Coreus.
So it was born out of the idea of what does great people practices give you? And that was a friend who asked me, a marketeer. And my response to that was a kind of starling murmuration. You know, it's something that's perhaps a wonder of nature, slightly unexplained. But when it works, you've got people that are playful, they're having fun, they're moving. It's almost in harmony. There's something musical with it, and I love music. So the idea is, teams that are in chorus and at the core of the business, rather than kind of the people, the people role being an administrative function, truly something that's at the heart, at the core of the business, that leads to growth and positivity and well-being.
The link between that and that Starling thing. I love watching those up in the sky. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what, just briefly, what services does Coreus provide?
So we offer outsourced talent solutions, staffing solutions to professional services SMEs who are unable to resolve those issues in-house. They might have tried recruiting themselves. They might have tried recruiting through agencies and had a bad experience and it been expensive. Then what? They've got priority roles, either one or multiple roles that they need to recruit to move their business forward. And they want it done properly. They want a proper professional service with urgency. And that's the kind of services that we offer. So we hire for one or multiple important roles. We offer a consultancy to organizations on how they can improve their hiring and avoid bad hiring. And we offer kind of development solutions and training solutions as well.
I love that. And okay, and how, we'll come back to specifically you and your company, but whilst we're talking about it, how important is it for a business to recruit the right people?
Well, I feel it's critical. What was a catalyst for me to start my business? And I know the perception of a recruiter. Most people don't like recruiters. I've since found out since starting a recruitment business. And the same thing with HR. If you say you work in HR, it's like, oh, yawning, or oh my goodness. You get that feeling anyway. But for me, I worked in an organization that was thriving. We were growing, sales were up, and there was an empty seat. And a kind of star individual working at a top business was recruited, went to a top university. The feeling was, gotta be good. Same university, kind of Oxford University as our CEO. And that hire took down the office from what I could see anyway. And ultimately, therefore, for me, the connection between good people practices and profit, good people practices and joy in the office, people having great weekends, coming into the office with enthusiasm versus kind of the Sunday blues, a disconnect between staff. And then, like I say, ultimately, good people practices and profit and customer experience. So for me, I've never felt there was anything fluffy to do with good recruitment and avoiding bad hiring. And for me, I've seen a connection between, the leadership and their lives and things going great, and the connection with bad recruitment and profit and poor customer experience, lack of efficiency, increase in risk.
And I think what you've need sort of highlighted there as well is how important it is to make sure when you're employing somebody, it's not about just about their skills that they've got, but it's about their attitude. So it's about focusing on attitude, not just aptitude.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah,
that you've got the because there's this sort of diagram that says the right person in the wrong seat and the wrong person in the right seat and the right
Mm-hmm.
person in the right seat and the wrong person in the wrong seat. And I think that neatly explains of that person might have had the right attitude to do that role, the
Mm-hmm.
skills, the qualifications, etc. So they were in the right seat.
I truly believe that, and I play a lot of sport. And you know, in our situation, in a great team and function, you could have a high performer that doesn't fit the culture of the team,
Yeah.
and also have someone that's average as a performer in terms of their capability or their effectiveness, but it's their attitude,
Yes.
it's their lack of fit to do with your vibe or your values that really bring down that team, or you know, where the results suffer. Because it's really interesting, and this is what I'm keen to work on with my clients, and in this people space, is there is a direct cost of recruitment and people practices and costs of replacement, cost of turnover, but it's the softer, it's the indirect costs of what turnover then leads to other turnover. You know, star people, long-term performers for a business, giving blood, sweat, and tears, and the cost of an empty seat or that bad performer, and what it leads to those people's experience and trials and tribulations. So I think it's difficult to measure. You can put a cost on a recruitment fee, but it's difficult to measure the cost of someone, the indirect cost of someone who doesn't fit, and that impact on a business.
Yeah.
But it's extraordinarily taxing, expensive, and you know, draining. And the way that really is felt by MDs that I work with, or founders that are hiring for, you know, important roles, is the cost of training. So it might be something, trying to find someone, waiting for their notice period, paying a recruitment fee. But once they're onboarded, that sensitivity of announcing to customers, we've got Simon, we've just recruited Simon for this important role, and you let everyone know. But the cost of that 6 months of training to find out that they're not the right fit, how can you avoid that happening? Because that 6 months, or that 9 months, including waiting for them to start, and then the time invested in training, is sapping, energy sapping and resource sapping for organizations.
Yeah, I agree. Look, some great points there to share. Thank you very much for that, David. And look, let's take a step back. And you know, I'm always interested to learn why people went into business. So, why did you decide to start? I think you've been in business, all right, you know, for 6, coming on 7 years now. Why did you decide to start up your own business?
Well, I think a lot of, you know, I work with people on careers all the time, and it's quite complicated, really understanding your summary of yourself. You've got things like your strengths, you know, the conditions that allow you to be at your best. You've got things like your interests, what really satisfies you, what your values are. But a really interesting thing to do is look at your timeline. So right at the start, you know, my dad had his own business. It's in my veins, you know. So when I grew up, I had the idea that one could go out and do your own business. My mum was an accountant. My dad was a creative who had a graphic design business. And their experiences of employment, and, you know, how that can break down with an employer, loyalty, trust, those feelings have always stayed with me, as well as the trials and tribulations of having your own business. But the answer to your question is, I'm an entrepreneurial creative. It's one of the things that really motivates me. And whether it's the, you know, we were talking about the art on our office.
Yeah.
For me, I love the idea of creating an interesting solution, and you know, I'm really passionate about. I think the opportunity to provide a really valuable, quality, high quality recruitment service to organisations that are truly looking for help. And I'd spent my career in HR, working with search consultants, headhunters, working in HR, and I felt that there was an opportunity to do something slightly different.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So it was in the blood. You saw an opportunity to, you know, in the market to do something different, and you decided to take it. So, and what would you say the biggest challenge that you've faced being in those sort of 6, 7 years has been as being a business owner?
Well, I think it's that people just don't like recruiters. So, you know, if you're doing some business development, there's always the challenge, which is selling your services. You know, and I think the biggest challenge that I face is a general reservation of working with recruitment or distrust of working with recruiters. I've heard it all, Simon. So going to conference, an accountant saying to me, recruiters are worse than estate agents or, something. So the perception of a recruiter and what you're in it for is the greatest challenge that I've faced.
Yeah. And how have you overcome that, or have you indeed overcome that?
I have overcome it in the respect that all our work is referrals and recommendations and returning clients. It's still a challenge I face developing new business.
Interesting. And yeah,
A tool that we use is when we start to work with a business and we know how they treat their people, then we offer really long replacement clauses and rebate periods
okay.
so that we are truly invested in a kind of long-term fit and long-term solution for our clients. We don't someone coming into role and leaving within 6 months or a year, it just doesn't work for the individual. It's expensive, stopping a job, looking again for a job, and it doesn't work for the business either. So that's not in our commercial interests. So as we develop a long-term partnership with businesses, we have these kind of very long rebate periods to reduce risk and commit both sides to a kind of a long-term recruitment and employee journey.
I like what you said there, and I just want to highlight that point that it's really, really sort of important, which is what you've done there is you've identified what one of the biggest concerns that people have of working with a recruitment consultant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the concern of, right, it's going to cost us a lot of money, and then that employee might leave, and then we've spent a lot of money, and what you put in place is something that actually reduces that concern or takes it away.
It does. It addresses that hard cost. But coming back to what we were saying earlier, I think what's fascinating is the hard cost of recruitment fees. Let's say it's £20,000. We recruit a new MD or something, a finance director, and the salary is near 100 grand, and our fee might be around £20,000. There is that hard cost, and a business owner might moan about that. But the joy of that person no longer being in the business if they're not a fit and there being an exit it can be a real relief. I think it's the intangible, it's the softer cost of that experience and the time that's invested in training and it not working out that is regrettable, a regrettable hire.
Yeah, I think that what I was going to sort of say there is that actually what you've shown there by doing it is that actually you're alongside them. You're going to make sure that you identify the right employee to their business, somebody that's going to stay with them. That's important to you, because if you don't, then it's going to hurt you as well as it might hurt them. So that just shows that you're confident in your skills, your abilities to identify the right person, and you're going to do the right things. And I think that's a key thing to highlight for all businesses. Is to identify what the biggest concerns people have of using your product and service, and what you can put in place to either reduce, if not take that risk away completely.
I really believe that.
I like what you've highlighted there. And okay, and what's the biggest learning that you've had since you've been in business, David?
I think it's on prioritizing the client experience. That's what I've always done. Whenever we've gone through a really successful period, if I look at the start of that or 6 months before, it's always prioritizing, instead of bottom line, the experiences that our customers and our clients have, really caring about a high quality experience of value add in accordance with our values. So our values are about uniqueness, being really keen and intrigued and curious about everyone's unique individualism and a business's unique value. The second one is positivity, moving things forwards, interest in growth, bringing a positive attitude. And the last one is around openness. So being as open as we can with our communication, as transparent to avoid any issues further down the line, as well as being creative and open to new ways of working. So being really passionate about the client experience and then staying true to our values is, I think, been an ingredient for our success and my success.
Love that. I like that. I think that's really great. And how do you do anything in particular to sort of stay true to your values and make sure that your team sort of stays true to the values?
Working always in accordance with those.
Yeah.
And being strict about those, prioritizing those behaviors. So, for example, one of the things that I've always looked for when I'm hiring staff is just truthfulness. If you don't know the answer, how wonderful it is to be, as a customer to be said, I don't know the answer to that. I'll come back to you, instead of blagging, remembering what it's like to be looking for a job, how deflating, how demoralizing it is when you're applying and not hearing back. So just being truly human, truly personable, is really important.
I like that. Thank you. And Dave, do you have any sort of favourite quotes or sayings?
So yeah, I love your picture up there. Never give up, and one of mine is a Tupac lyric, which is the road is hard. You never give up, even when the road is hard. You've got to keep your head up. Never give up. And I just love that kind of that lyric, which is useful in all sorts of aspects of life: resilience, durability, and never give up.
I like this. It's funny, isn't it? How these sayings or quotes, where they can come from. That's come from a Tupac sort of lyric. It's not necessarily quotes that come from motivational speakers and that sort of thing. They can sometimes they come from movies, like Disney movies in particular. They come up with some great sort of quotes. So really, yeah.
Well, in that quote, he's talking about his mother, who's a single mother, and the song is inspired by his single mother. But anyway, I mean, I whenever I sponsor someone and they do, I have to pay them £10 to charity to do something, I always put that quote in. Even when the road is hard, never give up. You've got to keep your head up.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really important that we all do that. Makes a big difference in life and in business as well. So. Yeah. And look, there's one question, David, that I always like to ask everybody that's kind enough to join me. And that's this: what is the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you?
I think I would go back to my 18-year-old me that was skateboarding. And I think the principle when you're skateboarding is how you do things is more important than the end product, in my opinion. So, someone could do the best, hardest moves, the hardest, whatever comparison you want, a metaphor you want to use, but it's about how you do something. It could be the most simplest task, but the effort that you put in, the accuracy you put in, and bringing your own style, your own flavor to something, continuing to do that and prioritize taste and style and your uniqueness.
Brilliant. I like that because
people overlook taste, I think, in how you work with customers. So someone would come to you, Simon, I'm sure there'll be other consultants that can also partner and advise their business, but they like your lens.
Yeah.
And so, I like the idea of style and uniqueness and taste.
I think I love it. I think thank you for sharing that. And I like the analogy that you've used in relation to sort of skateboarding. And what that brings out to me is that actually, if you focus on those things, actually you're going to get the result that you want anyway.
Yes.
The result might be different to what somebody else is looking for, but that's not important. What's important is the result that you want,
Yeah.
And if you do the things in the right way and focus on, as you said, their style and the how and those sort of things,
Mhm.
you like.
I've been surprised since I've started my own business how little luck I've got.
Yeah.
Everything has been hard work. So maybe that's another one that I would say, to my agent myself, is don't expect any luck. And if I look now at some of my most important client relationships, my most important deals, they are hard fought. The terms that I have with that business encourage resilience and dedication. And yeah.
Like it. Thank you. Thank you again for sharing those. So look, David, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers, Simon.